Good.
Pink is the public.
Right, let's call to order the regular board meeting of Greeneview Local Schools, February 20th, 2025. The vision of Greeneview Local Schools is a community of learners, a community of success today and tomorrow. And the mission of the Greeneview school community is to provide an excellent education in a safe and caring environment, preparing every student to succeed in a global society. Please stand for the pledge.
Gotta call the roll first.
Let's call the roll. All right, what's after the pledge on here?
We three.
Yeah,
Oh, it is?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's wrong.
Yeah. Roll call, yeah, pledge of allegiance, and then call the roll, right?
I mean, usually we call the roll first.
No, it's a free.
We're gonna do the pledge.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Fisher, please call the roll.
Suzanne Arthur,
Here.
Chris Bailey,
Here.
Jesse Connor,
Here.
Scott Powers, Megan Smith.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, we get a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move. 1 second.
Mrs. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yeah,
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'd like to extend an invitation for public participation on agenda items only. Good, okay. We have no presentation for today. And we will move to the treasurer's report. A, approve the minutes of the organizational meeting, January 9th, 2025. B, approve the minutes of the regular board meeting, January 9th, 2025. C, approve the January financial reports. D, approve January month-end advances. E, approve a then and now in the amount of $34 to the Ohio FFA Association. F, approve resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Greene County Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. G, approve the following donations. $1,000 from Kenneth or Lori Hopprich to the Kenneth Hopprich Scholarship Fund. $1,000 from the Jamestown Masonic Lodge for the Jamestown Masonic Lodge Scholarship. $665.90 from the Greeneview Academic Boosters for the Academic Booster Scholarship. $55,000 from the Jamestown Area Foundation for the Library Digital Media Coordinator position. $35,688.81 from the Jamestown Area Foundation for Digital Communications Wish List. H, approve treasurer's report A through G as presented. Mrs. Fisher, do you have anything?
I do not. Do you have any questions on anything that's on there?
Motion. to approve?
second.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yeah,
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Arthur.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, superintendent's update.
Thank you. So tonight, under new business, I'm going to be asking you to approve the special education model policies and procedures. This is required by ODU, the Department of Education and Workforce, and I anticipate that there are going to be more resolutions like this. Essentially, it's the district, the board saying that we're going to follow the state's rules. So just under new leadership, I'm going to take an educated guess that is going to be when new things come out that they likely may be in front of us. Between last month's early board meeting in January and this one, the district leadership team has met twice. We've reviewed winter benchmarking data, and I have copies to share with you this evening as well. So one is math and one is reading. So this is just a snapshot of the benchmarking tool that we use, iReady. When we check in 3 times a year to check 1 on student achievement and 2 on growth. So these are just achievement handouts. One at the top, you'll see the subject is labeled reading, and then the other one is math. What you see in front of you are in the blurred outline would be how students performed in the fall. And then on the clearer colored line would be how students performed in the winter. So where it says overall placement at the top, that is our entire district. So if you're on the reading page, you can see that in the fall, if you add up the green, whereas if you look at the little kind of key there, the green with stripes is middle or above grade level. The light green is early on grade level or like the beginning of the grade level. Yellow is 1 grade level below. Red is 2 grade levels below, and then red with the stripes would be significantly below grade level. So kind of like what we look at to simplify it at a district level is, are we growing the green, right? Are students more proficient? So you would see more green and less red. Yellow obviously might fluctuate. So just like snapshot version, like quick looking at this, you can see that in the fall, overall 29% of our students were proficient. And then during winter benchmarking, we were at 50%. And then it kind of breaks that down for you by domain. And then at the bottom, I've broken it down for you by specific buildings. So you can see the elementary again in the fall. If you're adding 10 and 17, 27% were in the green, if you will, or they are at proficient or near proficient compared to 63% in the winter, and so on and so forth. I already cheated and did the math. Maybe some of you can do it in your head, but you can see there, like high school went from 28 to 33. And then the Greeneview Middle School in literacy went from 18 plus 16, 34% to 50%. So at a very high level, at that 30,000 foot view from the district leadership team meetings again, that's how we look at our data. And then as you move through, say at a building level, and then maybe at a department or a grade level, drilling down, and then at a classroom level, you can look at individual students. In March, at our March board meeting, I anticipate that we will have some teachers showing up to do a presentation on how they're using their iReady data in their classroom with student goal setting or providing interventions or also providing stretch. So you can see math similarly about how that, so that's when I refer to benchmarking data, that's a snapshot of the kind of data that we're tracking, again, at a very high district level.
That's a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming the numbers for student assessed versus the total. I'm assuming the high school includes kids up to career center. Is that why they're so?
It does not actually, and that's a good question. We iReady benchmark test students in grades 8, 9, and 10.
Oh,
So if there
Okay.
are not students who are being assessed, then that's a good question of why. Why are those numbers low? Because ultimately, and it should be all students are being assessed. So that would be one of the questions that would come out. If they're 8th, 9th, and 10th graders and they're walking our halls, if they are taking CCP classes and reading and math in 8, 9, and 10, then they wouldn't be here during the period that they were assessed. So that could be.
so the total, the 507 includes the whole building. Is that why there's only this, that's why there's like a 200 person gap in the number assessed? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it looks like 200 students didn't get assessed, but
I'm
my
gonna
guess
say
is,
some of those students are not walking our halls, but I
That's
would
what I
say
meant.
some of those students are. And so it begs the question, why did they not
Gotcha.
get assessed?
gotcha.
I'd say most are walking our halls. So it begs the question, what happened there? Why are they not being assessed?
Well, I mean, you said this, it doesn't assess 11th to 12th graders.
Correct, that's not on here.
Anyway, so there's 507 students from 8th through
That are.
that are in our halls.
That are targeted to take the
9th, 10th,
assessment.
You know, that seems like too
Seems like
high
our classes are about 100
each.
There might be 11th
Seems
and
too
12th
high.
graders in there,
in the total,
in the
yeah,
total, but
yeah.
they're not required to take that.
right, That's what I
That
meant.
might be, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah, so
I'm
like-
catching up.
it's okay. I'm just trying to say, like, it'd be nice to maybe know, like, of the 302 were assessed out of how many that were potentially available to be tested. So this looks like we didn't test 205 students, but I think it's probably way less than that. It's probably more in
I
line
agree.
with the middle
I
and
am
elementary,
actually
but
really surprised that didn't apply.
I was just curious. Listen, that's what I do for a living. It's my person.
I I do know though that we have some students that should have been assessed, that didn't take place, so that's also a conversation. But yeah, there are probably there are probably others in there that shouldn't
Yeah,
be.
got it.
Even though that tool is available to them, it's not required in 11 people.
So the total, but not, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Sorry.
Do we have a comparison to like national? Because none of our schools even hit 50% for math. So is there something with the test that is, like that's a percentage they're telling us they're proficient, but what is that percentage compared to like our local other schools? Like what is Cedar Cliff seeing and Wilmington seeing? Because we did improve, but we've never hit 50. We're not hitting 50.
Yeah,
That's
but
a little
I can
scary.
tell you that experience tells me that traditionally, but like it keeps going up, and by the time we get to spring and we have covered more material, that number goes up. But the short answer to that is that this is norm referenced.
Okay.
So it is all schools using iReady in the country. And actually, you could make the dispute of like, this doesn't really measure what I'm teaching. That's what I hear most from teachers because we're following Ohio's learning standards. This tool isn't necessarily meant to assess exactly what you're teaching in your classroom. It's really meant to like do that dipstick check of how do we compare with other schools, most kindergartners in the country? How do we compare with most third graders in the country and so on and so forth? So it's really just like a check-in to see like our overall competencies of reading and overall competencies of math. However, I will say that there is a pretty good correlation between how students perform, pretty good as in really good correlation between how students are performing on the iReady assessment and how they ultimately end up performing on the state test. So the idea is kind of like, to the best of our ability, not waiting for a state test to understand and know where our students are, but to have a tool like iReady, MAPS, another popular one that's in other districts, to check in 3 times a year and go like, where are kids at, where are their gaps, so that we can respond. It does not surprise me that that number is lower and that it continues to grow
Okay.
by the spring.
It seems like in the domains that they're a lot closer to 50% or higher
Mhm.
than it is up in the total. So I don't know if that is that supposed to be an exact breakdown?
On the bottom. No.
Yeah, no, it's just like certain areas.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it's the whole district, so it's really, I feel like it might have been easier to look at too if it were by building. Because like with like elementary is looking at phonological awareness for reading, the high school is not looking at that. So this is a super broad, easy handout to bring to the board. That's drilled down.
You thought it was gonna be easy. So we tried to ask somebody.
Yeah, I'm really surprised I did not hear from the total. You made me think of something else though, Mrs. Connor. Really, I just wanted to like express the difference between a norm reference assessment like this, that is generally speaking of all kids, compared to other assessments that we use in the classroom. They're directly related to the content that we teach.
So I do have a question or comment. So I know there's like obviously a lot of focus on reading and literacy. And I think that clearly you can see that students are even came in more prepared. But it seems like maybe there might be an opportunity in math, like that they're not coming in as well prepared and maybe there's not as much focus there. So I just wonder if that's not an opportunity to balance it a little bit more or put a, because today's world math's gonna be essential. So it just seems like, when you're looking at how they're coming in, they're a lot more prepared with math or with reading than they are with math.
And that's why we did a full K-12 math adoption. And we just jumped in all in so that,
When
So
do you
that-
think we would start seeing the results of that implementation?
I would think as soon as a year, some moving the needle.
Okay.
Because right now we're still finding our way.
Mhm.
I would think 2 to 3 years.
I mean, for a full, but you have to think, like, we really, at the elementary, we said we were using everyday math, but I don't think we were really using everyday math. That's not a criticism. And then we kind of had a math program in grades 4 and 5, and in 6 and 7, not really either. So like, there just wasn't any and no, it's fault, but just continuity and consistency, same kind of language, more updated materials.
I should
And
know, but what is the math that we adopted?
into math is K5. And then reveal math is 6, 7, and so on.
So you
we've
feel like
got-
we have the tools and.
we have the tools, yeah, which was a major purchase. It really was. I mean, math programming, and we went through an entire year to choose what we believe is an effective program.
Good.
And to
the staff
do
was
all the
involved,
things,
obviously, in
yes,
that.
yeah, it took a whole year to do that.
Good.
So we feel like we have good products now, that can help attend to that. And then the follow-up to that is even of like, okay, now that we have the core instruction, what does math intervention look like? Because to your point, we talk a lot about literacy and what that intervention looks like, and that's one that is more prevalent. But we also have math gaps too, so, and you need materials for math gaps. So one of my questions is, hopefully our programs that we purchased have comprehensive tools to be able to use for that, but the follow-up question is now, how do we close gaps? And for the high school, like we've talked about this with literacy, that we feel like we're closing gaps throughout the district. So that also that, whereas sometimes I even pulled like some of the OST data where we might have lower scores at the high school, but some of that legitimately is that, they're not gonna see
Right.
like the implications of some of that improvement and gap closing before they get there.
Thank you.
We have a fluency program that we use in math.
You reflex.
Do you use the reflex? Awesome. What grades do you know? 3 through?
I'm gonna guess it's K through 3 or 4, and then they use refracts, which is fractions.
Right. Right. I don't think it's K2. It's really supposed to be 3.
My first grader just
Is doing
is doing it.
reflex.
Mhm,
Really?
mhm. I just got a certificate. So, and then I love the fractions is even better because fractions is always a thing outside of
Reflex
facts.
is good.
Yeah, and seems to be effective. So just from a straight facts intervention or computer-based program, we do have that as a tool, but when we talk about small groups and direct instruction and addressing the specific things that come out in our performance measures, that'll be the next step. Questions? All right, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that too. So just thinking about using iReady also has learning paths, which are intervention tools, or you could argue, stretch tools. I know what I wanted to share. I'm sorry, Mrs. Connor, that I thought about, but didn't say, is that iReady is also adaptive. So with the thought of, again, of like, at the state, our learning standards and what is being taught in the classroom is directly for that grade level and directly for that class. Whereas this assessment is adaptive, so it goes until you like top kids out. So even like a first grader, again, how do you figure out who's below grade level or above grade level? I might be stating the obvious, but this assessment's going to take them to the point where they can't answer questions anymore. Again, another complaint I'll get was like, the kid will say, well, I haven't learned that yet. Or the teacher will say, I haven't taught that yet. Like that's on purpose because you've got to push kids to their limit. And it's adaptive so that you can get their actual performance. Like you're not going to get 100 if you know all the first grade material. It's going to push you to figure out where you are on the spectrum.
Like that above grade level, or I think I've seen
Yeah.
how my kids were, they'll have like they'll have the grade, whatever grade they're in, and then the grade level they're testing into is on the right side of the report.
Yeah.
So I was just curious overall, like where we stand compared to, if this is national, to other schools around us that are teaching similar curriculums.
I don't know. I'd have to literally ask them because there's not a database or if iReady's working with the school, they could recommend schools, or like I said, the other popular one is MAP, MAPS. It's the same kind of idea, and they also have learning paths to go with it. I used MAP in another district. I would say you'd be hard pressed to find a district that isn't using some form of benchmarking tool, and there are just a handful of, but they come at a cost. They come at a cost. So just kind of along the same vein, we did also just thinking about implementation K-12 of a math program, thinking about using all of the functionality of iReady, whether it's in those learning paths. Thinking about where we have pockets where we've bought literacy materials or interventions like Haggerty at the elementary. So we did just like quick self-assessment, self-checks, just to give us some implementation data, if you will, to understand how programs are being used throughout the district. You know, not necessarily in a judgmental way, because you might not be using the program, not because you don't like it, but maybe you are working on skill gaps and it's not in the program. So it just gave us some information to start having conversations about how programs are being utilized. And candidly, you know, there is an idea of return on the cost of investment. And good programs come at a cost. And so, you know, we want to make sure they're meeting our needs and our professional learning needs. And so we did some just quick checks, like I said, to gather some initial data, but really how we'll know how to respond will come from the conversations that come out of that. I already told you about next week. I think we'll get some presentations from teachers who can answer questions even better than I. February had an early release professional learning. So again, staying in the same vein at the elementary school, grade level teams met to look at their data and to set goals for the winter. So everyone set goals-ish in the fall based on initial data they got. But to your point, that data tends to be kind of low in the fall. So now that they've seen fall to winter data and they've seen the kind of growth, is that what we normally see? Should we be focused on something else? Across the district, they set goals for second semester, and much of that time on the early release was dedicated to that at the elementary school, the middle school, as well as the high school. Is there anything else that I wanted to share with you about that? I don't think so. Also, keeping in line with teaching and learning, I know I wanted to show you something on the website, but I'll get there. Our gifted intervention specialist position is posted. As you know, our current programming coordinator is from the Montgomery County ESC. Her name is Sharia Racy, and she's helped us with compliance and practices for our gifted students. And I just wanted to show you some updates on the website regarding gifted, among other things. So I'm going to start here. So we've added this teaching and learning button, if you will, in the toolbar. And we have added some subsections. So I'll start with gifted, since that's what I was referencing in the update. And right now, she has helped develop, well, one, the entire complete gifted plan that is now compliant, up to date, relevant, and accessible here for everyone. And then she's helped put together like a Cliff Notes version that is easy to navigate and take a look at. Talks about superior cog, creative thinking, specific academic, all the ways in which you can identify services, acceleration, early entrance to kindergarten, and then some parent communication and like FAQs. So she's put a lot of time into one, making sure the full document is compliant, but then also putting together this breezier version. So you can check that out in more detail if you like. But I'm going to take you back to the teaching and learning section. So back to, we just talked about the district leadership team. Actually, let me go to the teaching and learning page first, and we'll navigate from there. So you can see some familiar things. So here's like the landing page or the home spot for teaching and learning. It's got a blurb there about the focus really of our teaching and learning work, as well as other pieces. And then we've really highlighted some of the programming that we spent a lot of time in. So here's our BLT. Now you can see like our purpose, our goals, our belief, the structures, the functions. We have living, breathing goals in each building based on data. And so that is there too and fully developed. And so right now, gifted and special ed are the only other two, and then we'll continue building these out. Although literacy is kind of like goal 1-ish, and TSS is kind of goal 2-ish, and then prevention and intervention is kind of goal. And and I know Thomas has also worked on updating his page while I'm here. Thomas has been working on, again, making sure things are up to date and relevant. And even though it's not related to teaching and learning, so I don't come back here and play more, I'm gonna draw your attention to one more thing that I feel like has been popular and hopefully helpful to the community. As under resources. And I would just remind you of our community events and opportunities page, where we are able to share things taking place in our community. So I feel like this is starting to take traction and people are understanding that they can come here and get information that might not be directly, well, it isn't directly affiliated with the school, but we're willing to share as well. It's a one-stop shop for folks. So a lot of work has taken place there on the website. Finishing up here on teaching and learning, I've started to regularly attend our county business advisory council meetings. Those are referred to as BAC meetings. They take place at the Greene County ESC and they take place once a quarter. And essentially who attends is administrators from the county, but also businesses, even some representatives from higher ed, as the state is really focusing on career advising and work-based learning opportunities and how to make sure that we employ, like that our high school students become employed. And how to really foster the connections among that. So that is just something that it's really gonna start to be a greater focus for us next year too. I had not been attending those meetings regularly, but now I will be attending them. And I just wanted to share that we continue to dialogue. It was mentioned even last night, the donations from the Jamestown Area Foundation, which is funding for our media center and makerspace activities. And they have also reached out to discuss maybe even more future possibilities as it relates to programming, resources, and spaces. Specifically thinking right now, like looking at our spaces and making sure that our spaces look like relevant media centers and how we can just continue to advance makerspace and digital media opportunities. We're not getting rid of the books, how to make sure that it's relevant media center. Before I leave teaching and learning, I want to honor students of the month as well as the quarter. So students of the month at the middle school for December are 4th grade, Kylie Kingsolver, 5th grade, Jack Harper, 6th grade, Jamie Reynolds, 7th grade, Kenley Guess. January, 4th grade, Lillian Johnson, 5th grade, Anthony Rucker, 6th grade, Dakota Benning, and 7th grade, Austin Cherry. And then for the high school, quarter 2, students of the quarter, 8th grade, Will Svensson, 9th grade, Lane Hall, 10th grade, Jacoby Baldwin, 11th grade, Madeline Batista, and 12th grade, Caleb Watson. Moving on to facilities, teaching and learning section. We've had some heating issues at the high school. It's taken some time to repair a coil that really needs addressed. And then once all those repairs have been made, then we will be able to add a water softener to the high school building. And so that will help with some of the water coming in, as well as like the debris and calcium buildup that's taking place at our high school over time. We continue to have some general maintenance issues at our elementary school and the field house here. The elementary school gave us some fits last week with a compressor, but we were able to fix it. And thankfully also we still have the boilers in that building. So we were able to use the backup heat of the boilers until the compressors were fixed. Just leaks, and we need a new gutter at the field house. So we'll be doing some things to make sure that water isn't coming into the field house by fixing the gutters and some of the spots on the roof over there. I can't remember if I mentioned or not, but at a board meeting, but Greeneview was approved for the late liquidation art as a request or for funds. So I wasn't sure if I had shared that yet. And I also brought pictures of the multi-purpose building, a few pictures. So let's this was probably a week or two ago. Concord Construction has completed the structure of the building and the siding's now going up, so here's structure stuff. That makes it look better than it does. And then here's the siding. So the siding's going up, the backfill, the perimeter of the foundation, they're gonna start cleaning up the ruts too. And after that, they'll start on the roof. They're still working through the plumbing connections as well as coordinating utilities. And as a reminder, I knew there was one more. You can go to our main page of the website. And there's multi-purpose building button. And you can stay up to date as we continue to add pictures and so there's like the initial stages. So. It's, again, a place that you can go on our website to stay up to date. Share that button with you. Operations. I already commented on, we're improving our web pages. I know that we received, I know Inga will probably share at a later date, that we received some budget simulation from the governor's budget proposal. And those simulations do show a reduction to districts. So at a later time, we'll talk about those specific reductions and how that could potentially impact us.
I have a webinar tomorrow and a webinar on Monday to discuss, go over everything. So once I get all that information, I'll share that with you.
And then finally, I'm just gonna put a plug in. I've joined the Jamestown Chamber of Commerce, and we are hopeful to grow our membership. So anyone who would be interested, we meet once a month on Tuesdays. And it sure would be great to get more businesses in our community to join and participate in that, so we continue to dialogue and work in partnership. So concludes my superintendent's.
Thank you, Operator. Right, anybody have questions? We good? Okay. Moving on to new business. A, approve the Ohio High School Athletic Association membership for the 2024-2025 school year. B, approve Greeneview High School government trip to New York City / Philadelphia, November 19th through the 22nd, 2025. C, approve the E-rate Category 2 contract with Naveca for wireless equipment upgrade at Greeneview Middle School. D, approve the special education model policies and procedures resolution. E, approve board policies, volume 43, number 2. F, approve new business items A through E as presented.
I did want to share with you. I actually didn't get to my last page on my superintendent's update. But thankfully, these two items are here under new business. And so if you'll give me a moment, so the category 2 contract with Naveca is, so our 5-year budget cycle for category 2 E-rate funding is coming to an end. Category 2 funding is used for internal connections like Wi-Fi, networks, switches, routers, and the related. So a new cycle will probably begin after this, but this is closing up and finalizing again that last year. So we've used category 2 service funding for things like server equipment. We replaced the wireless access points at the high school and the elementary school already. And of course, here replacing access points at the middle school with a 5-year managing licensing. Also related to that I wanted to share earlier, my apologies, is there's also category E services, and Thomas has been working on the E-rate category 1 services, which involves our student hotspot program, which was launched in 2021 with 40 units, and now it's down to 20, really due to service costs. So, but however, working with T-Mobile, it's about to expand and become more affordable to us. So we're transitioning to the new E-rate category 1 funded program with T-Mobile, which you might remember participated in 5G Lights with us. We'll provide 50 new 5G faster hotspots with unlimited, all covered under the E-rate funding cap. The upgrade will cut our annual cost by roughly half while increasing the available devices. So the hotspots offered improved service and can be used with student, staff, athletic events, supporting up to 18 devices simultaneously while remaining compliant So certainly a celebration and happy for the work in the district on that, as well as our partnership with T-Mobile. And then our board policies, also there are volume 43, number 2. Of special mention for me, 2271 has some minor revisions to College Credit Plus, which allows families the intention to participate by semester now, instead of just by that April 1 deadline. I think November 1 is another deadline, as well as a new form that we must use. 2460 is the requirement to follow the model special ed policies, hence the resolution tonight. 5460 is about adding additional graduation diploma seals. 5610 is related to discipline infractions and offenses. And 7421, the board is recommending and would approve designating student restrooms and locker rooms for the exclusive use for male and female biological sex. The restrooms, locker rooms must be labeled, but the board can still maintain family facilities or make any accommodations for special circumstances. And I do have one more piece from my superintendent's update, but I'll save it till the end. Onward with new business. Are there any questions?
Was 2265 a whole new policy?
I
I
would
don't
have-
remember that existing.
Did it say new where I?
It does say
uploaded it?
new.
Yes.
Okay, was that in line with some changes for
I don't read. Do you remember what it was about?
protections of individual beliefs, affiliations, ideals, or principles of political movements and ideology?
So I'll paraphrase this one for you, which it's not new in law. I'm actually surprised it's new here. I think maybe some pieces were added to it. If I'm remembering correctly, essentially, if there is a student that wants to participate in a religious activity during the school day, we're required by law to allow them to do that as long as it does not interfere with their instructional content. So like really, we're talking about study hall or lunch. We have not had any instances in this district where this has been a request. But it is allowable. We do not provide transportation. It would be upon the student or the organization or the family to transport. So that's a paraphrased version of that.
I think that was 5223, the release time for religious instructions. The 2265 was a little bit different. I just had not seen that one before. And I didn't know if that had to do with
Teaching
something.
in class, I can't remember exactly what he said in the meeting with them.
If you give me a second, I'll obviously nothing's stuck out. What's that?
Mine, Chris.
Essentially, does it say you cannot express your own opinions or ideologies? I
I didn't
guess
know
hence the
that.
title.
I just didn't know if that came down from something that had, changes, or if it was just a suggestion that got brought, that we would have that in a policy.
I don't,
Is it Neola?
yeah.
That's what I'm
Making
like,
the
it was a
suggestion.
Yeah, but usually, the policies come, is there a law down there?
There's a bunch of
Yeah,
revised code.
yeah,
That's
it's
what I
in
wondered.
response to revised code is the short answer.
Okay,
But you're not wrong, and usually law comes from a thing or an incident, or there's a right, and then it becomes a law, and then Neola picks it up and writes a policy to address it.
okay, that's what I was, didn't know if something had happened, or if it was just a change in a law that made it, so it would behoove us to have this policy in place.
Yeah, we have to have a policy, we have to have a policy. But usually, and Neola really does give us stories sometimes, like there was this incident at such and such school, and so, but I don't have a particular thing. Sometimes that's hard because sometimes there's content in class. Specifically social studies classes, so you have to be, as an educator, really intentional about making sure that you're addressing the learning standards.
Entertain a motion?
I'll second.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Arthur.
Yes.
Mr. Bailey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Right, on to personnel. A, approve Scott Harvey, middle school custodian, step 4, 1-year limited contract for the 2024-2025 school year. B, approve Larry Sparks, bus driver, step 3, 1-year limited contract for the 2024-2025 school year. Contingent upon proper certification, background check, and completion of all paperwork. C, approve the resignation of Rachel Nagai, intervention specialist, effective June 30th, 2025. E, approve the retirement of Rebecca Carver, elementary school cook, effective July 31st, 2025. E, approve the following athletic supplementals for the 2024-2025 school year. Trent Old, spring site coordinator. Hannah Lutz, high school varsity head track coach. Dean Mulliken, high school assistant track coach. Travis Thacker, high school assistant track coach. Max Mulliken, high school assistant track coach. Chris Reno, high school varsity head softball coach. Matt Simpson, high school varsity softball assistant, JV head coach. John Mark Brooks, high school varsity head baseball coach. Volunteers, Cole Mulliken, middle school head track coach. Jim Church, middle school assistant track coach. Jacob Truby, middle school assistant track coach. Craig Finley, middle school assistant track coach. F. Approve the following high school supplementals for the 2024-2025 school year. Beth Neville, Saturday school. Beth Neville, musical director. Aaron Hall, spring musical assistant. G, approve the following certified substitute teachers for the 2024-2025 school year, contingent upon proper certification, background check, and completion of required paperwork. Sean Fleeman, Caitlin Goodfellow, Sue Ellis, Beth Neville, Christopher Reynolds. H, approve the following classified substitutes for the 2024-2025 school year, contingent upon proper certification, background check, and completion of required paperwork. Building aide Christine Coe and custodian Crystal Phillips. I, approve cooperating teacher stipend for Jaden Greenwood for $300 from Cedarville University. J, approve personnel items A through I as presented. Entertain a motion.
I move.
I'll second.
Mr. Powers,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Nothing for discussion only.
Can I use this opportunity?
Yes, this
for
is
one
great.
more?
Perfect time.
Yeah.
Discussion.
I'm required, I'm just required, I should have mentioned this in superintendent's update, I'm required, by ODU to report out on our bullying and harassment data twice a year. And so this is for the first semester at the high school, bullying, 9 investigations, 3 confirmed, harassment, 2 investigations, 0 confirmed. At the middle school, bullying investigations, 14, confirmed incidents, 1, harassment investigations, 6, confirmed incidents, 1. Elementary school, bullying investigations, none, confirmed incidents, none, harassment investigations, none, confirmed incidents, 1. So I apologize, I didn't get that in earlier. Not really the note I wanted to end on, at the meeting, but I wanted to make sure that we publicly, I have to present that to the board.
Any other discussion? Is this section for just? Is that just for like board members and anyone up here?
Mhm.
Should we have, instead of that being none, do you think we should just have that always be like
I think that was,
open, just because like, I'm never gonna remember to send you something
We
ahead
have
of time.
board.
If I have something to say.
Discussion or something.
yeah, we just copied it from last year and forgot to update that.
All right, no worries. All right. All right, now we have an invitation for public participation for non-agenda items. Hearing none. 9. I will entertain a motion to move into executive session to discuss the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official.
I'll second.
Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yeah.
An executive session at 6:44.